Thank you, everyone. We'd like to call to order this meeting. The Environment Committee is our first meeting ever, which is very exciting. Monday, April 17th. It's 2:30, and we should like to get started. I think we have the acknowledgement is we acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking people, and we are honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. I will add to that, actually, I was just got back from the Avik Up Island, and there was a really powerful session Sunday morning at the end with some First Nations individuals who spoke so powerfully. And we're moving into a new era of treaty discussion and resolutions, which is in addition to or aside from the whole reconciliation thing that's happening. And it was a really fascinating, powerful event, but I feel like it was quite almost historic. It was really quite a remarkable thing, and the first time at AVIC that happened on that level. John Jackson, who spoke, actually got a standing ovation at the end of it. So it was really quite an impressive thing. So we're moving forward on that level, and I look forward to it. Given that the approval of the agenda, I would like to amend the agenda to include a section of discussion of the terms of reference following the item, the tree removal request item. Do we, how do we do that? Do I put a motion of that? So I'd like to move that we make that a change to the agenda. And everybody good with that? You can vote, favor. That's passed. We can do the roll call now with starting with, I guess, Devon Barnes. I'm going alphabetically. Devon, I see you're online. I understand you're in Winnipeg. Do you want to just say hello and a real quick introduction? You're muted there, Devon.
Thanks, David. Hi, I'm Devon Barnes, Colwood resident, registered professional forester, very keen in environmental management, and happy to be part of the committee.
Super, thank you. And Lois Cates cannot be here today. She sends her regrets in Winnipeg. I believe a family matter of some sort, so that's unfortunate, but she'll get a chance to watch the recording later, she hopes. Charlotte Gourlay. You press your button there. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. I don't even know how to do this, so I just push. Yeah, sorry, I'll just have to wait for direction on the machine here. That's not good, but that's Karen. Oh, they're not at their correct seats, perhaps.
Maybe I have it backwards.
But it did turn on. Just hold on, it's a little technical glitch, but trying to get the microphones to work in the right sequence or something. We just had an opening this morning of the waterfront funds announcement. That went great. Yeah, I thought it went well. It was blustery. It was perfect. It was like the gods were unleashing the powers of the weather on us. All those politicians down there huddling in their thin little outfits. It was quite comical in a way. Mr. Beauvillier was there, and that was an exciting moment. Yeah, we were all shivering. Yeah. Okay. We're close. We're getting there. Sounds like we're ready to go. So we're going to change the format with the mics here a little bit so you understand, and folks will just turn their mics on and off. Where were we? We were talking about adding a discussion point at the following the tree item 4.1. So after we'll add that. So can we do that? We just call for a motion and vote? Yes. Okay, and we voted already. So that's done? Oh, cool. And we don't need to second a motion on the committee level, as I understand it. Okay, cool. Did we find out what Devon, how he voted? No. Oh, there's his thumbs up. Good, man, we just saw it. Okay, thank you. And we did some introductions. How far did we get? That was it. So it's your turn, Charlotte, please. Charlotte Gorley.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlotte Gorley, and I'm a Colwood resident. It'll be 25 years this summer since we moved here, and I'm very much looking forward to learning about this process and learning from everyone here. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Pamela.
Good afternoon. I'm Pamela Nicholas. I've lived in Colwood for about a year now. Very grateful to be living here. And I am an educator and work with various groups here, including Scenic and the Climate Reality Project. And I'm very excited to learn more.
Very good. Thank you. Karen Woodland.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Woodland. I have been a Colwood citizen for 2.5 years, and for the prior 26 lived in Metchosin, 10 minutes away. Like Charlotte said, I'm looking forward to learning and contributing to this wonderful community. Thanks.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm David Grove, councillor with the city of Colwood. Retired baker. Roby Bakery was my wife and I owned that for 23 years, and now I find myself here in this position, and I'm honored to be here. Looking forward to this first meeting to dive into it and bring everybody on board. We're reinvigorating the committee process here on council, and the Environment Committee is a broad name. It seems all inclusive, but we'll keep it very focused and productive, I'm sure. So let's move on right away, shall we, with 4.1. Are we there already? It's a quick meeting in a sense, or oh no. Right, public participation. Sorry about that. Anyone from the public here to speak? Yes, please step up to the mic. Please give your name and address and let us know what you have to say. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brett Donaldson.
And I'm Lacey Donaldson.
We live at 777 Sunridge Valley Drive. We are here today in regards to a tree that's in our front yard. And I have some information here that backs up the statement that I'm about to read with some photographs and whatnot, as well as a letter written by my neighbor, who is 1/3 owner of said tree itself. We would like to start off by saying the cypress is a beautiful tree, but it's just located in the wrong place for our neighborhood for an invasive non-Indigenous tree of that size, which the tree itself is not even on the protected list of the city. It meets the protected standards because of size, but itself non-Indigenous. We do value the community trees and the community's urban forest. But in this instance, where this directly negatively is affecting two stakeholders' property and destroying city infrastructure, we asked the Environment Committee to consider its removal. We would also like to point out that we disagree with several points that were written in the report that was submitted. The first disagreement is we have the utility containers do have major damage and will only get worse over time. We have photographs to substantiate that damage as well. In pictures A and B, and the utility with the green lid has several cracks and is completely deformed, starting to split the container. There is no way to seal it properly with the new lid, nor seal it safely as it continues to grow. It will deform and more, eventually needing the container to be replaced, probably killing the tree, and in the process, then it becomes the city's financial responsibility to remove it. The second disagreement that we have with the two trees planted is with two trees being planted in the boulevard area, in the easement area from the street to our property line. Being planted to the boulevard, being not enough space to prohibit the sight of view for our neighbors to get in and out of their driveways, because over time, if we talk about the tree being planted originally right now, and for that matter, probably over the next 4 or 5 years, it's not going to be an issue. But as the tree grows and becomes mature, it will become a sight hazard, especially for my neighbor who's written the letter here, because of the way backing out and looking down the street, as well as if you go to the affected area of the street and look down the easement line, there are no trees of that size or of substance in that affected area. There are some trees that would be planted directly on the property line, which is a 50-50 ownership from that standpoint, but where it was recommended, where those trees go, they serve no purpose. Access. There's also a water drain with 2 utility boxes located in a 225 square foot spot, and a large fir tree, which is protected 9.5 feet away. We recommend the 2 trees be planted in the vasted parkland woven amongst our subdivision. So in the area in the dog park, there's more than ample space for those 2 specific trees. In the meantime, we have already planted a Japanese maple tree in the easement area that we fully intend on maintaining and taking care of, because we do have an electrical box that sits on that side of the property, which we feel it won't grow high to cause any type of visual impediment for driving or anything like that. This last weekend, planting several trees more, and we also intend to plant more trees in our backyard that will not cause damage to the surrounding infrastructure. To plant 2 trees in this area is just going to cause problems, as well as there's a city drain that's right there as well too. We would also like the council to know that we have support from our neighbor Micah, which I've mentioned before already, for the tree removal. We have her letter. She finds that making the tree in question is making her front yard pretty much unusable. She has a protected tree that's sitting in the middle of her yard, but this cypress tree is completely dwarfing the other side of it, and she There's no space to grow anything underneath, as we know how difficult it is to grow things under trees. The removal of the tree will make it a little bit more easier for her to do that. And again, we have photos of that. We would also like to point out the damage that's been done to our driveway because of said tree, and we have photos to substantiate that. It has been raised up and cracking. This massive non-Indigenous tree has caused irreparable damage by its fast-growing roots. Within 5 years, we will have to replace our driveway. And with that being said, considering on the initial report, if the tree is not decided to be removed, we expect the city to pay for 1/3 of the cost of the driveway replacement because of the fact that it's already been admitted that it's partially your tree, as well as mine, as well as my neighbor. If this tree is decided to be kept as well, we would like an arborist to come in at the city's cost to trim the tree on the street side as well as some of the affected areas above our driveway and over on Micah's yard as well, just because it dwarfs my yard as well as her. So we would like to have some level of maintenance taking place on that tree. I thank you for your time and consideration with this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Can I give this to somebody?
We have photos for you guys if you want to see.
Yeah, okay. You can give them to
And
Amanda.
Micah's letter.
And my letters.
Thank you for that information and those comments. I think at this point, is there a report to be given, John? Are you prepared to give a report at this point, please? Yeah, super, thanks. Thank you, John. Gord, I'm sorry. There's too many Johns and Gords in the city. Oh, he's right behind you. I was probably looking at him when
looking right at John, but talking to me. Good afternoon. I'm Gord Beauvillier. I am the parks manager here at the City of Colwood. I've been here for about 15 years and looking forward to being part of the environmental committee. Today, I don't have a presentation. I am the report writer for this request. The reason that I brought this request to committee was we have set guidelines set out for the city in tree protection through our upcoming urban forest strategy, as well as our tree protection bylaw. But where there are some unique cases where this one here, where it's not just our tree, it's actually shared with the resident as well. In a situation like this, the city would not be removing this tree as a healthy tree. It is under the protected bylaw. It's not a named protected tree, but it is protected by its size. So essentially, it is. We're seeking recommendations to council as to how we proceed when trees like this are on a shared property. In regards to the utility, we are in the process of getting the utilities to come out and have a look. We don't have a complaint from the utility that the tree is affecting the utility. The boxes that surround the wiring, that it's telecommunications, and I believe there might be wiring for the street lights as well. Unlike water infrastructure that can be easily destroyed by tree roots, the wires are a little bit malleable. They can survive in a month as long as it's not growing right into the tree, that sort of thing. The box itself has definitely been affected, where to put the lid back on, we're unable to do. So we have contacted the utility owners to come out and assess the box, try to get the lid back on, and if need be, to replace the box for the utility. And in that case, I think we would find out from the utility owner if there's any issues with the utilities. We don't have that information yet as far as the utility owner. We do not have an arborist assessment as well. Visually, the tree looks fine, but the city is quite prepared to to get an arborist assessment if needed. And that's essentially the report here, is just seeking some guidance and some recommendations when we're dealing with a shared tree that's both on city property and private property.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Here for questions if.
Yeah, thank you very much. Gord. Any questions for, yeah, Karen?
Gord, do you know who planted the tree?
Great question. Yeah, we really don't. And I'm assuming that it was part of the development, but it could be a tree that was planted many years ago by the first residents. It's also very hard to determine. This type of tree tends to grow quite wide on the base. So it's really hard to determine if it was actually part of city property that grew onto the private side, or was it a private tree that kind of grew onto the public side? That's why it really makes it a little bit of a muddy decision when we, I mean, if this was clearly on city property, we would be having a different discussion, because, you know, normally we would not be taking these trees down.
Is there any precedence for something like this happening before? And as far as even like a public tree ripping up somebody's driveway?
Yeah, I mean, that does happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure we could find some where there was substantial damage to driveways and infrastructure that you know, CRD, water infrastructure, that sort of thing, where the trees have been removed. I don't know. I don't know the extent of the damage to the driveway. Past practice for the city, when it comes to shared trees, we actually have had some instances where there was a shared tree, but it wasn't a request for removal. It was requested, what do we do with this tree? And what the city has done to help protect our urban forest is, where there is a shared tree, the city takes onus on managing that tree. So, you know, if it's this situation where it's quite clearly, you know, half on city property and then a quarter or half third or whatever it is on the private property, the city will now, you know, take management over. We'll prune it, we'll care for it, we'll make sure that the tree survives, and we'll do any kind of maintenance that needs to be done. That's past practice that we've done for shared trees before.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Do we know the age of the tree and what the natural lifespan would be?
I'm going to take a guess that the tree is it's a fairly fast growing tree. It could be anywhere. I think it could be anywhere from 25, 30, 40 years old.
Thank you, Charlotte. Devon is online here. Make sure you unmute yourself there, Devon.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what were the proposed replacement trees?
Don't believe that there was any replacement trees proposed by the city. The request for the city was to have the trees back into the boulevard, and then the city would advise as to the best tree for that area to make them. It obviously wouldn't be it would be a medium-sized boulevard tree, probably red maple, something like that. Maybe even a smaller tree like an Eddie's White Wonder, something like that. So we would.
Yeah, I was thinking the species form factor could help with that site issue that the public was, Mr. Donaldson was saying, and Mrs. Donaldson was saying.
Yeah, we would definitely make sure that the right tree goes, as well as, you know, we could also do, you know, one tree back in the boulevard, one tree into the park area, which there is quite a big park there that could definitely handle some trees as well.
Thank you. Pamela, did you want to speak again? Okay. I'll just take this opportunity to ask.
Sure.
That was one of them, was the two trees. So one could go there, one could go in the park.
We could, yeah.
I would like to make a comment that tree, the Lalandia variety, I had some in my yard, and they're terribly aggressive. The root systems are strong. It grows very fast. It's branching out wide and low, many of the things you described. And I, in particular, am biased against this particular tree because of its unfriendly landscape nature. I don't know how to word it.
Hard to prune as well.
Hard to prune. I noticed, actually, I stopped by the site before the meeting and saw at least 7 branches had been removed recently on the roughly the driveway side, and it barely made a dent on the whole tree if you look at it from the street. I also noticed that entire subdivision seems to have this sort of, call it exotic or different non-native varieties planted along the boulevard. And whether or not many trees have died or been removed already, I'm not sure, but they are sort of random and there's not that many. However, there's quite a few. And looking at the photograph that that I took while I was there down the street, there are some smaller, like it looks like an ornamental cherry perhaps, or apple, and they're along the boulevard, much smaller. They look to be quite old. And I just think that would be a much better solution. The driveway, I saw cracking in the driveway. Whether or not the city is viable, I can't go there. I comment on that this time. And I did see a large root running toward the neighbor's house. I believe it looked like it was from this tree near the surface, causing mounding on the surface. That might not be that tree, but it looked to me it could be. Likewise, the pipe or the access tube the lid was definitely not fitting on there, right? There is some.
Yeah, we had removed the lid to look at the infrastructure, and we were unable to get it.
The lid is loose. It has some cones on it.
And we do have the utility owner.
Yeah, that'd be great to see that. So I myself personally look at it and think, wow, that looks like a really good candidate to remove and replace with something more amenable to the site. I think a tree replacing would be great. And the neighbor's tree too, that's being overwhelmed by the Lelandia, is quite pronounced.
There's a Deodora back there, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's also non-native species. Again, that propensity to plant something exotic, I guess. Okay. Devon, did you have something more to say? I see your, no, okay, good. Just saw his video came back on. Does anyone else have any questions for Gord? Okay, Karen, please.
Gord, do you know if there's any birds nesting in the tree right now?
I don't know if there is.
And if it were to come down, would that be considered beforehand?
We definitely could, yes. Yeah.
I also just wanted to acknowledge the landowners and appreciate you coming to speak to this. I know it's not easy, and so thank you.
Okay, there we are. Any more questions, comments? The proponents here would, I think, like to speak, and that's quite all right, isn't it? For them to speak again, Amanda? Yeah, please.
Thank you. Just further to the report, we have done an arborist report on the tree, and we can share it with council, but the tree's healthy. Like, I'm not gonna, it's a healthy tree. It's a beautiful tree. It would be perfect in the park where it needs to be. It is just not the right size. My family is the original owner of the house. My mother passed away last year. I inherited the house. I'm an only child, sole executor. So I moved my entire family back into my family home as a kind of a thing that I wanted to do. And I know the history. That tree 100% was planted by the developer. 100%.
Yes. Okay, good. That's good to know. I think that's how it looks in the neighborhood. That was just my
everything. If you can go through the whole Colwood Creek Estates and go in that easement side, and everything's planted on that easement line between the city's property and the citizens' property. Right. Yeah, that follows for me. So it's good to be reassured. I mean, I was just making that assumption. Okay. Thank you.
The one other thing I wanted to point out is to plant another tree in that 225 square foot spot would inhibit and obstruct any utilities getting to the 2 utility boxes behind it.
And I think if
It's
the tree
only
was
225
removed,
square feet.
yeah, if the tree was removed first and then another tree planted immediately, and then infrastructure comes in and says, yeah, you know what? This needs to happen. There's going to be a risk to further damage from the tree itself. Ultimately, my overall envision of this scenario goes as such. I cover the cost of the removal of the tree. I pursue no costs associated with the city in terms of my driveway. I already have a tree that I have waiting to go into the spot that's recommended by the city. It's not on the list. I want to put a palm tree in there because I already have a palm tree in my front yard that's easily manageable, doesn't take up a lot of space, and has more than enough vision for my neighbors coming both directions to be able to see what's going on, and I can keep it under control from that standpoint. For me, it seems a pretty straightforward process. I've done all the dirty work, so to speak, and looking into all of that, and I want to follow the city's guidelines. I love what the city of Colwood has done. I love the vision, I love the plan, I love everything, but as with all politics, common sense politics makes the best sense. And in this instance, for this tree, the best result would be for the removal, for me to plant something, and for me to maintain. And then infrastructure can come in, fix the box, fix the area, because we don't know what's the timeline on that. We don't know. So at least we're in agreement with that, I would hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Okay, so for me, we're to recommend to council what we're thinking about this tree here. So I really honest, do I look for a motion to, do we have one? Karen?
I'm not sure I'm ready with a motion
motion,
because
okay.
I'm feeling a little conflicted because a few weeks ago I stood there and asked mayor and council to protect all trees. With the sequoia on Ben Homer, you were able to work the sidewalk around the tree, which I thought was great. That tree was well loved by neighbors and they wanted to keep it. I don't believe there was anyone who spoke against taking it down. So I thought it was the perfect decision in that context. This is now a different context. And while I really value trees, I also value democracy and common sense. And I know Lekwungen cypress is not native to the coastal Douglas fir biogeoclimatic zone. So hopefully something that could go in there. And I guess if I may ask Gord one more question. It sounds like there's a great deal of space, the dog park, the easement there. Is it possible to plant even more than 2 trees there? Is it, the more trees planted, the better?
In Colwood Creek? Yes, definitely. There's a lot of space there. Colwood Creek is, the management plan for Colwood Creek is calling for quite a bit of reforestation there and improved riparian and protected riparian area there. So we planted, was it 500 trees there, 10 years ago. So there's a lot of room for trees, especially in the new riparian area.
Thank you. I really appreciate that the landowner supports the vision of Colwood, as do I. I think the policies you mentioned, Gord, are excellent. The urban tree canopy and the green space and the tree protection and enhancement, excellent policies. If I were to propose a motion, David, it would be that Gord and Parks Department work with the landowners, the Donaldsons and the neighbors to come to a satisfactory solution, which it sounds like removing the tree is what, but in its place and not necessarily in the same spot, but close by, that 2 or more other trees are planted. And I just like to close with, I couldn't support the planting of a palm tree. Yeah.
It goes with our, that's all.
Yeah. And you've already got it. Thanks.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much, Karen. While we're at that point, I think we need a motion, do we not? Amanda, can you help with this a bit? Is that expected? For me?
Sure, I can help. So what I understand is that the tree removal request at 777 Sunridge Valley Road be approved at the owner's expense and that 2 or more city-approved trees be planted either there or within a certain area, like within the area, within the park or on the easement.
Yeah,
Do we want to clarify that more?
I think we spoke to possibly replacing them in the park if the easement wasn't appropriate due to existing infrastructure,
Okay.
or one in the easement and one in the park. I think, Gord, you mentioned something.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely doable. We can work with the homeowner and come up with a plan that I think would benefit both parties for sure. Yeah. And just to mention too, I think the tree bylaw, if for any tree removal, is a 2-to-1 replacement. It's in
Right.
the tree bylaw.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a motion. Can
Hey,
we?
Dave,
Yes.
David?
Devon. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering if, in the motion, could we specify the 2 replacement trees to be protected species as a way to kind of encourage native establishment of species and wherever they're located? And then the other comment I would say is that this appears, regardless of the tree issue, it seems to be a jurisdictional issue. So if we can resolve that jurisdictional issue, then that might be a good way forward. In terms of like, the city has a tree and the private owner has their own tree. So it's clearly defined instead of a shared space with the replacement tree, that is.
The existing tree is shared space and we need to, sorry.
Yes, sorry, I'm stating that the tree that currently is there is a shared space tree. And if we planted replacement trees, that they would have clear jurisdiction over who owns them.
Yeah, the replacement trees will be replanted on city property.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Pamela, go ahead.
Is there a way, I know nests were mentioned and other critters that might be living in the tree. Is there a way to just as they're cutting it down, maybe check for it and, remove them safely?
Yes, we can do that.
Actually, Gord, I would ask, is that part of the urban forest bylaw that those considerations would be made automatically? It doesn't need to be written into the motion that would happen.
It's not in our bylaw at this
No.
point, but we are making amendments to our bylaw, so that could definitely be something that
Okay,
we bring
yeah.
forward. Urban forest strategy, definitely we have environmental issues in that.
Okay, so where are we now, Amanda?
Well, I'll try again.
Yes.
So that the tree removal request at 777 Sunridge Valley Road be approved at the owner's expense and that 2 city-approved trees be planted in the most appropriate location on city property. Is that correct?
What was it? Is that you, Mike?
And could we add the checking for?
Okay, and
Sorry, any species living in there? That would be.
Amanda.
I said city-approved trees.
Meaning approved as in protected species. Is that right?
I'm not 100% sure what our bylaw says and
Yeah.
what our trees are listed in the bylaw.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
city approved.
thank you. I do have one question. The replacement trees are at city expense?
The 2-to-1 replacement through the permit process for removing a tree is on the permit holder.
So we'll be following the permit bylaw in this case.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. That's all clear. Everything's clear there. Okay, I think we have the motion. We've discussed it. Any further discussion? Any ideas? I call a question, I take it, and we vote in favor of the motion. All those in favor? Devon's in favor, opposed? It's unanimous, passed, approved. And thank you all very much. And yes, thank you to the folks for coming in. We really appreciate it. Oh, yeah, Amanda?
So we will put this recommendation to council at our next council meeting, which will take place next week on the 24th.
Okay, it will be on the 24th?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, yes. Yeah, and there's an opportunity if you want to prepare something again to present to council at that moment. We're making no decisions. We advise to council.
So I can add that to the agenda.
We did get some materials. Gordon did
Yes.
submit some photographs, etc., so that your materials be added.
And it's Sunridge Valley Drive.
Yes.
Drive.
Drive. Okay.
Oh,
Center Road.
okay.
Okay, I got
I
that.
think Google Maps says road.
I don't always know it.
Yeah. No, I was just there and I looked it up and I remember anyway. It doesn't matter, does it? Sunridge Valley Drive on Google.
Sunridge Valley Drive on Google.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Awesome. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you're very welcome. Yeah. It takes time and patience, but
And I work for
very good. Thank you. Okay, moving on. This brings us to, if I can get my iPad open here, to the next item. We added the discussion of the terms of reference, which is what the next item on the agenda. So this is really, in my mind, was to allow us to discuss more openly and casually, even almost, how we see our position here, to help familiarize ourselves perhaps a little better with how it's going. We had our first, take care. We had our first
for
opportunity
coming.
to make a discussion and sort of, for me, awkwardly perhaps go through the process and get my feet wet with this whole thing. And at the start of the meeting, it was clear in my mind what kind of questions I might ask or we could discuss. If one of you would like, Karen, perhaps have you got your mic on? No. So anyway, if one of you would like to speak to the terms of reference, the committee in general, and how you see our movement forward, please do so now. We'll take a bit of time here. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it can be open and relaxed conversation in a sense. The other thing, I guess the other element I'd like to make a comment to is the idea of us getting together to talk about stuff, which I know at the beginning of my council term, this was really important in the forefront of my mind. As the system and the process developed, it shifted and changed. But we do have the option of scheduling a workshop, do we not? Here on the premises as a way of discussing issues. Amanda, I'm asking you the question, sort of, I'm not saying.
We do that with council.
Okay.
We haven't done that with a committee before, but it's something that I can inquire about for sure.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, it can be open. I don't think anything that would be discussed would be something the public would be. So maybe it could be recorded or in for public viewing. Public could be invited, I suppose, even. But we could just get together to chew the fat, so to speak. And it's all part of us getting together to know each other better as well. And I think it would help make a more efficient process and dialogue in the future. So I think that's what's brewing. So maybe we can try it once in the next while. Because
Okay, I'll come back to you with the rules around that
Okay.
and how we can do that moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you for that. What would one of you like to just sort of hit off, just discuss then the terms of reference and what questions you may have around it and what it means for us or not? Do you have any? Karen, why don't you start us off?
The very first line under purpose, to facilitate greater collaboration and exchange of ideas between council and the public. So I guess that's the question we're looking to have answered, is how do we go about doing that?
Yeah, so there we go. Thank you. It's like it leaves me with a big smile on my face because that sounds boundless. The notion of discussion around different items, and I think an important part with this committee, as I looked at people's history and knowing some of you a little bit, the ability to pursue a project, come up with some ideas, put them together in a organized way and presenting it to council, not as almost as an information package, right? And I think you were speaking to that, Charlotte, at the start before the meeting a little bit. So I think we need to find a pathway for that to happen. I think this committee, the members, as I spoke to you at the orientation day, it sounded very much like you had different ideas already well formed, if not even finished studies done. So that's advising. It's not recommendations necessarily, but we can turn it into a recommendation at this table, I believe, with discussion. Or do we just respond to council questions like this tree issue?
So the next part, the authority does lay that out. It does say that the committee's function is advisory and that their role is to review, comment, and make recommendations to council on issues referred to the committee by council. Any initiatives proposed by the committee that have resource or financial implications, including staff time, require council approval. So that could help you.
Yeah. Because we're not talking advocacy to council, are we? I mean, that's sort of a vague term because by presenting a suggestion or an idea, it's really tricky, reading this to understand. The Environment Committee is a broad stroke, even in the support and maintenance of the vision of the low carbon resilience climate action plan implies that we comment on aspects of. Am I getting it? So what's our way forward? Sort of in a way, that's a mean question. Karen, speak, please.
My question is around advocacy, because clearly we're all on this committee because we're advocates for the environment. But we are to represent all people of Colwood, and that I find a challenging position because not all people of Colwood will be environmental advocates. So I guess what is, I'd like clarification between those two we talked about earlier, purpose and authority, and then further clarification on our role as advocates or not.
Right, so I read that we are here to provide advice under the purpose. The recommendations are a little more formal. Seems to me we can discuss, we can make the advice, recommendations can come in response to items they send us, sure, but it does make recommendation. I don't know how else you're supposed to, but yes, sure.
And I'm speaking for myself, but I sense others are on the same page, and that the reason I'm here is because I want to make a contribution to my community. And I recognize that some of that will be, I'll call it operational, like we did today, but I think there could be space for some innovative ideas that we could bring forward as well. I hope there's space for that.
Yes, I think that's hit it very well. Thank you as well. I see you circling the subject. I know you're right there too. So just add to it, even if you've heard it already.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with my co-advisory members here. It feels a little bit like, you know, we've got a tape kind of duct tapes to not, fostering, it says in here, fostering public awareness and things like that. So I'm not sure how we're supposed to foster public awareness about issues if we're only, you know, just taking whatever the council is bringing to us. So it just seems like there are ideas fighting each other here.
Yeah, so I think that it's quite clear to me, without having to recommend to council that we amend the terms of reference, which is an option. This was put together by the mayor and other and staff in cooperation, and they made an effort to lay it out. And I think that if the interpretation is for our liking too narrow, then we can talk about asking or recommending to council that they amend it, and we can recommend those adjustments. Amanda?
It does say that any initiatives proposed by the committee that have resource or financial implications, including staff time, require council approval. So from that, I would read that if there was something and it does require those things, that it would be a recommendation to council that you're looking forward to doing that.
Right. So I'm going to say that now and take the step that we're just opens it right up. So I would recommend, or I would invite committee members to bring to us. We can put it on an agenda. We can open it up. And if it's not appropriate or if it needs to be adjusted, then we'll deal with it at that time. Meanwhile, let's go forward. And as time goes, we'll settle into this quick. I'd hate to stifle ideas because of some kind of feeling of restraint around context. I think we all understand quite clearly that it's an advisory position. We're doing what we can and saying, hey guys, look at here. I mean, this is really an opportunity to advance the position of the public microphone at council meetings, really, isn't it? We're in behind it. We're doing this. And if we wanted more push, you know, you can step at the public mic doing public contribution. I suppose you're a committee member now, but others could. And we hear these things all the time. I think there was reference to the freighter item. Was that before the meeting, Pamela? So I was just at AVEC Up Island, as I mentioned, and the resolution from the city of Metchosin, which the city of Colwood Council wrote a letter of support for, to have the issue dealt with in some way with the freighters that are anchored offshore. Not so much that it's done, but that it's much, much more frequent. And there's 3 more freight break bulk carriers out there again today. And they're there a lot longer, etc. So that went through and was approved to go to UPCM in September, that resolution. So that is one way things move through the system. And I think that we're part of that now. In this context, I'm very excited about it. So I think we can go forward on that. Karen.
David, doesn't mean as part of this advisory committee that we cannot speak as in public participation at council meetings, or are we?
I have to ask Amanda again. I don't know these rules.
You can speak at public participation as a member of the public. It's more than appropriate.
Okay, that's good to know. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Lois once she gets a chance, presumably to listen to the tape if she's able. And we can be in touch with each other. Email, we have some contact. A quorum is 4 of us, correct? Yeah. So if we have 3 of us together, we can chat. This is, the council's dealt with this. It's a funny issue, right? The general consensus lately has been that we are able to get together as long as we're not talking business. Now in council and moving forward business, that's council. With a committee, we're talking about ideas in a formative stage for an advisory purpose. It seems to me the rule is even a little softer in that case. I could be wrong, but no. You don't have.
I believe that you would fall under the same rules as council.
Same
as
rules.
a
So,
committee.
right. So if we're together socially, is okay. It does happen. We were advised that was okay. As long as we're not moving forward an agenda, a meeting agenda, or in like conducting business per se. It's a tricky rule. And we dealt with it at the beginning. I mean, I'd walk by the mayor's office, there'd be 2 people in there with him already. I wouldn't enter the room. Now it does happen occasionally.
In terms of electronic communications and emails, you know, is it appropriate, like The National Climate League just came out with their ratings for municipalities across Canada. You know, are we allowed to send that to other committee? You know, here's this interesting thing about, you know, we can look at Colwood's GHGs and compare. And, you know, are we allowed to do something like that? Is that appropriate?
Yeah. Send it to all of us each time. The one thing to keep in mind is that all of our, and this was touched on at the orientation, is that our electronic communications are open to FOI. Is that right? Freedom of Information Act perusal. So just keep that in mind. It's an easy one, really, in a way, because of course you're speaking respectfully. But no, Karen.
Thanks, David. And Ian is here, and I know that Ian was on staff in 2018 when Colwood applied to become a model climate community through ICLEI. And I wonder if that might be something that this committee could talk about and possibly reinstitute. Can you tell us where that's at, Ian?
Thank you. And through the chair to Member Woodland's question. So I believe you're referring to the partnership we undertook with ICLEI that resulted in the creation of a climate resiliency report. That initiative led to the information being fed into our low carbon resiliency strategy. The work with ICLEI beyond that project hasn't been foreseen at this time. So additional work would have to be directed by council or through communications with ICLEI.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, any other comments or questions? I don't see anything from the screen from Ontario. I guess.
Hey, David. I got some business now that you mentioned me. I have a photo that I would like to send to the committee. And it's a photo of the Royal Beach entrance to the beachway. There's lots of driftwood obstruction that I was hoping to propose to have a pathway cut through or something so that it was more accessible for residents. The beach area.
Okay, send that forward and we can. Were you talking about discussing it today, or you mean whenever? Yeah. So yeah, please send that through. We can. Yeah. See, this is where I bogged down a little bit on how an item may. Yes, Ian is speaking. Going to speak to this. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, if the member of the committee wanted to make a motion for that to be something that council's recommended to provide direction to staff, that would be an option. I will mention that significant reorientation of the access to the waterfront is called for in the waterfront stewardship plan as part of the multi-use pathway project. So that's something the committee can look forward to happening without additional motions being made. However, it would likely be in the next several years that occurs part and parcel with that plan.
Right. So I see the plan. The terminus of the waterfront pathway is at the Perimeter Park terminus. Is that right? Before Royal Beach?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. So the idea is that the multi-use pathway will connect with the pathway that's being built in front of Royal Beach and then be contiguous all the way through to the Lagoon Bridge.
And the beach in front of Royal Beach is the city property on foreshore or leased provincial property at this point. Is that right?
No, right at this point, there's a plan for parks to be created with the Royal Beach development. There's a section that's adjacent to what is now a crown lease that's held by the developers of Royal Beach that was a vestige of the former quarry operations.
Right.
So that land would, as it's proposed, become part of a new foreshore parks lease that we would negotiate with the province and then tie together with our existing parks lease at Cobourg Peninsula.
So you're suggesting at that time or at some point down the road that what Devon was referring to with the logs and dealing with that situation will be dealt with at that point, and some.
The logs that we're discussing, I may be confused, are they located in front of Royal Beach? Is that the
Devon, is it Royal Beach you're talking entrance?
Yeah, like you come down, you pass that woolly mammoth structure, and then you walk along the storm pond there, and then you come down to the beach area. There's a little walkway, and everybody goes through less than a half a day to just kind of clear a path. It get obstructed again, most likely with the ocean bringing more logs in, but I'm sure it would free the area up for a bit. And it's not an immediate thing, but I just was taking my dogs for a walk down there, and I thought it would be a good thing to mention one time. I have a photo.
So he's speaking about in front of Royal Beach. So yeah.
Apologies, I was mistaken in terms of the location of the logs in question. So that area is so the park access that's there is managed as a private park provided to the community through the Royal Beach. Certainly, we just hearing this information, we can look at how that could be addressed. However, by all means, if the committee wanted to make a recommendation to the council that this issue be addressed by city forces, that's another option for the committee to determine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borhill. So Devon, I think this will be dealt with as we're moving along with waterfront plan, and but I think I would invite you to send your information around and we'll talk about it.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Thanks, David. I wanted to just acknowledge that all the driftwood on the beach, all those logs, are a result of forestry practices in the province. And so I think it's really important that we, not look at things as disconnected. Everything is connected. And I did want to say, David, the announcement that you were at this morning, that I was very heartened by the language when the mayor spoke about the waterfront multi-purpose pathway. And so the work that the Waterfront Stewardship Committee has done on that, and the plans sound like they're really prioritizing biodiversity and shoreline protection. They mentioned involving green shores, which is a fantastic operation. So before any cutting of logs on the beach, maybe we'd want to find out more about the next stages of the multi-purpose pathway.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, thank you very much. Anyone else would like to? Marcy has her hand up.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to let you know that the Royal Beach Parks Plan is coming forward to a special meeting at council on April 26. So if there is a piece of correspondence that you'd like to send in to have attached to that agenda, please do so.
Thank you for that information.
Marcy. Duly heard, Marcy. I'll send my email tonight. Thank you.
She's been listening. Everything, anyone else like to contribute today? Charlotte, you're all good. Yeah, I'm ready, prepared to call for adjournment. We're there. We can chat, move this forward to the next meeting. We have lots of ideas. I can just feel everybody chomping at the bit. I feel I would be a bit myself, getting used to the constraints of the situation and how it works. And as time goes, that will become more fluid, and as we get to, it'll get lubricated. It'll go a bit smoother, I hope, for my sake, from my point. So do we vote a motion for adjournment? I call for all those in favor. Adjourned. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Get your hand. Oh, thumbs up now. Good. Thank you. See you, Devin.